Scott with SJ, wellfire.com. Final days report, episode 284. Today's VCast, we unlocked the October 4th emergency test that just took place. And what I'm looking for in the future, I'm going to share 3 potential outcomes, really focusing on 2. And I'm going to share my experience during this test as well. I put my cell phone in the microwave oven and went off twice. Something odd happened that I'll share later in this VCast. Plus, I'm going to share an article about this nanotechnology and revisit some old podcasts as well. But let's cover the 3 things I'm looking for. The first one is sudden death. I don't think that happened. I was listening after the test for sirens, for ambulances, didn't hear it. Actually looked in the news, it didn't seem like there was an uptick in death, but that doesn't mean the technology is not there. We've proven that. We're going to revisit some old VCast as well about that technology and play a doctor as well that actually echoes the same points that we've covered over the years. The 2 things I'm really focusing on is, did this potentially ignite a kill switch, a slow death to prime the next pandemic, to prime disease X? You can't make this stuff up. We've covered in this ministry probably 7 pandemics being primed, and a couple of them are tied to global warming. And we know the UN and the WHO have a power grab to shut everything down. This is to bring in this one world government. And the third one that we've always talked about within this ministry, I think this Seal 2 is about mind controlism, optogenetics, tying you up to the hive mind, artificial intelligence, the quantum computer. And I just found it odd that Russia and other countries did a similar test on the same exact day. It seems like it's this one world government, and we're in a theater of war, but people are the war to bring in this one world government. All right, there's massive evidence. We've done a bunch of VCasts. You don't need an emergency broadcast system to be taken out. Couple VCasts. Can a cell phone kill you? This is the VCast where the Asian woman had the cell phone next to her heart. It went off, and then she was dead. Final Days Report, episode 80, Smart Grid Cell Tower. Did we see a murder happen? I mean, you could literally see like a flash of light, a disturbance in the air, and then it just hit a guy on a bike or a motorcycle, and he was taken out. Those are 2 VCasts where they probably did not have an emergency broadcast system. And then, of course, Final Days Report, episode 169. If you're not awake to any of these, check these VCasts out. Search for them on sjwellfire.com. But Demon Attacks, it's the video that we covered, the montage of death spirals, where people were swatting at something. It was almost as though the veil was lifted and they're swinging at something, and then they just become stiff. And sure, we know people have died. One person fell into an oncoming train. So is this activated by artificial intelligence, by the 60 gigahertz weapon system?
Robert Bass, a physicist and PhD in mathematics, is working on U.S. weapons research. He says that the Soviets seem to be ahead in a number of areas, and especially in RF weapons.
We are behind the Soviet Union in directed energy weapons based on 60 gigahertz microwave beams.
Wi-Fi connects us at home, at the coffee shop, and just about anywhere. By harnessing the 60 gigahertz millimeter wave band, Qualcomm Technologies takes that Wi-Fi experience to the 5G era with 60 gigahertz Wi-Fi.
Directed energy weapons based on 60 gigahertz microwave beams.
Would be high-powered microwaves, similar to a focused, ultra-high-intensity radar beam. It would literally cook humans. Scientists say that microwaves and other types of RF pulses operating at specific frequencies or windows can be transmitted with little or no loss of power. Over the past year, CNN has repeatedly asked the Department of Defense and the Air Force about radio frequency weapons. After much resistance, DoD finally said that the subject was too sensitive to discuss.
It's fascinating, my friends. But I want to play Dr. Merritt. Now, she's going to talk about some sort of group that's trying to stop the cabal. That sounds a little Q-ish to me. I never fell for Q because if you follow our ministry, my great-grandfather was sent to Siberia during the Russian Revolution as a dissident, never to be heard of again, and other family members as well. And so I researched Russian history and World War II history. I had a grandfather that fought for the German army, another grandfather that fought for the American army. So I'm well versed in the history. I have relatives living in Russia. My mom, she was just a baby, escaped back to Germany with her Russian mom, who married a German soldier. There's a movie in there somewhere. And then they came to the United States. And my mom came over when she was 13 years old, didn't speak a bit of English. People to this day will actually meet my mom and say, "Where are you from?" I don't hear an accent from her, but in any event, I'm not buying the Q bit. Q is Operation Trust. So if you're following Q, even though they probably say a lot of truth, so does Satan. Satan tells a lot of truth, but it's the lie you have to watch out for. Don't put your hope in man, put your hope in Christ. But Dr. Merritt mentions Astroworld. She mentions optogenetics. That's this mind controlism technology that the Lord showed me in a dream in 2008. I won't go over it, but ultimately the fake God is a quantum computer. 5G is the fake Holy Ghost, and the Antichrist will be tied into the system. It's artificial intelligence. You're going to see holograms. I mean, good night, my friends. But the people that took the mark of the beast, it's almost as though they just became zombies. But they weren't eating people, but they were just controlled. It was a hive mind situation. So let's play Dr. Merritt. And again, this was before October 4th. I think she provides some interesting insights that we've covered before as well.
I'm just going to bring up something that I put on Telegram. Now, I've been talking about optogenetics, and maybe I'll come and talk about that sometime. But optogenetics it's a hot topic in modern research, and they claim they've never done it on humans, but I cite the Travis Scott concert, which I think is an optogenetic hit. Basically what they do is they can make a chemical called an opsin, and they can hybridize these opsins to do certain things. They can make them very specific, and they can put them in you, and then they can beam a wavelength on it, and it will cause things to happen. Okay, that's a very brief study, but they can do it with very, very precise spatio-temporal precision, they call it, very precise way. So they can start and stop cardiac arrhythmias, for example. That's what I think happened at the Travis Scott concert. They were all vaccinated young people. They walked through strobe lights, and then they went into the music where there's all this wavelength, and it tends to be a lower frequency wavelengths that are used to activate these things. And something happened, and about 14 people dropped, and one person that survived it, that didn't just die, he said, "It felt like when I was standing there, my heart just stopped." And that's what you would see in this kind of a hit. But in any case, they're talking about October 4th, an event. And this is, there's a group called TLS. I think it's the Light System it stands for. And these are people that claim that they have infiltrated the whatever we want. I call them the Babylonian Mafia. But the big guys, the big elite in the world that are running this show, and that they're trying to, through various techniques, turn the tide by getting them to do things in different ways and stopping things. Well, they're the ones that put this out through an intermediary. They said, "You need to get this word out." And this is a guy on the internet, and he said, so he's just saying, he put it out. He's like, "There's a new thing that came out today. I'll put that up." But he said that on October 4th at 2:22 p.m., they're going to do a theoretical test of the emergency broadcast system. Now, we've been hearing this for a while, so that part I can believe. And then they said, but what's really going to happen is they're going to blast this wavelength, and it's going to do something. They don't know, but they're concerned that it's going to do something bad. Now, I will say that in addition to optogenetics and the Travis Scott concert and all the things I've looked at, it's my opinion that while they've been waving their hand about mRNA and trying to distract us over here, this is the kind of thing they've really been doing. And that this is very easy to do and cheaper relative than all that fancy genetic manipulation to do mRNA technology. So I got to say, I think there's some juice behind this. And for me, and I will say this, look at all the Chinese people that were, there were several of these that you saw, and they were looking at their phone, and then the flash, you could see it flash on their face, and then they just slumped over in their chair. we didn't have any follow up on that, so who knows? And it's hard to know what's psyop, but that's consistent. Again, these things, you can't just take one data point, but this looks consistent across the spectrum. We had it happen in Israel, in South Korea. Personally, I'm not going to take any chances. I'm going to take October 4th, and I'm going to take the afternoon off, and I'm just going to not.
So I thought it was interesting. She mentioned optogenetics, that's mind controlism. And then she also mentioned the concert, Astroworld. And this nanotech has been placed in our water and food. So Final Days Report, episode 147, we covered nanotech in the water, activated by a certain frequency, and they don't need an emergency broadcast system to do it. They could fly a drone over your house to do it. And then what happened, nanotech EMF death weapon evidence at Astroworld, I cite Dana Ashley's work, probably one of the last videos that she's done on YouTube, where the frequency was changed at the concert. People couldn't use their cell phone. Many of the people were poison poked. And I thought it was interesting what the doctor talked about, how people, their heart stopped. So this instantaneous death is real, or getting sick by a frequency is real. So I wanted to play her perspective as well. And she mentioned the cell phone that we've covered in Asia, where the cell phone went off with that Asian girl and then she just croaked. Many, many proof points that can get you fast and slow. All right, so number one, instantaneous kill. Next 2 weeks, short term, something to look for. Don't see that happening. Number two, did this broadcast, this emergency broadcast, activate some sort of nanotech kill switch for the next pandemic? We know the WHO and the UN want a power grab for the next pandemic. And they're also tying the next pandemic into global warming, right? With malaria and mosquito-borne illnesses. Meanwhile, they're dropping GMO mosquitoes. People are getting bit and having terrible rashes. I was thinking about doing a VCast on this. You can't make this stuff up. Check out the podcast we did, Bill Gates of Malaria. I actually captured an article with Bill Gates. The article headline read, Bill Gates involved in gain of function research with mosquitoes, and it was pulled. I was able to capture the headline. So what I'm looking for as a potential outcome in the next, let's say 3 to 6, 7, 8 months is a massive outbreak. But personally, if I was evil, I would set this nanotech off with drones. So I was looking to see if anything's hitting the news, and I've covered this before, but this to me is fascinating. What is Disease X? How scientists are preparing for the next pandemic. It sounds like Twitter in a way. I mean, it's like, hey, we don't even want to name the disease. We're just going to call it Disease X. They're playing us like fools, my friends. And again, we've documented the WHO and the UN power grab. And they want a power grab not only from the next pandemic, but they want a power grab to shut things down because of global warming. That lie from the pit of hell. All right, I found this article going back to 2020 during the pandemic of as the days of Noah devil juice that can be activated by, it appears to be some sort of frequency. This is from the Times of Israel. U.S. biotech firm Inovio reports encouraging virus vaccine results as the days of Noah devil juice results. Inovio's vaccine, called INO 4800, is designed to inject DNA into a person so as to set off specific immune system response against the pandemic that was launched. The medication is injected under the skin with a needle. Then get this, then activated with a device that resembles a toothbrush that is probably using some sort of frequency, which delivers an electrical impulse for a fraction of a second, allowing the DNA to penetrate the body cells and carry out its mission. Sounds creepy to me. And this is where it gets even more nefarious within the article. I had to pull it in. This company was financed by the U.S. Defense Department. Why? It goes on to talk about how President Donald Trump's plan to produce hundreds of millions of doses of vaccine, as the days of Noah devil juice, by January as part of Operation Warp Speed. And people are still calling Trump a hero. This is mind controlism, biohacking technology. He launched 5G that communicates at the cell level. Trump, I just listened to the speech again from Trump. He's like, we need to get rid of all regulations and launch 5G. Come on, man. This is our demise. We recently did a podcast, Final Days Report, episode 275, Graphene Head, Satan's Blood, Black Goo, where we link graphene, luciferase, and optogenetics, which is mind controlism. And Hugo Talks actually recently did a podcast that I thought was very interesting that I missed, where optogenetics, mind controlism, and in that podcast, we show a mouse, how they controlled a mouse to kill using optogenetics and blue light. And Hugo Talks ties it all together with blue light from the TV, blue light from your cell phone, blue light from the street lamps that are being implemented everywhere. This is Satan's false light for mind controlism. So then I started doing research on blue light and optogenetics, going into the research white papers, and it was very, very technical. I'm just going to give you the headline from the National Institute of Health, the government. Optogenetics, control of brain using light. And you can see in the headline here, after exposure to blue light, the channel immediately depolarizes the neuron and then generates AP expression of CHR2, can be restricted to specific, and it goes on. They're using blue light. So they got rid of our old tubes, brought in these new flat screens with blue lights. The blue light toxicity is over the top. Check out Hugo Talks podcast. He ties it together with the blue light and the blue lights of the lamps that they're putting in. We've done it as well, but he just made it very, very clear. Unbelievable. So I started doing more research on blue light, and I found this, I guess, iconography. The sun is God's blue light. Everything is inverted with the devil, with Satan. And then Satan's blue light is the mobile device, computer, TV screens, and get this, the LED lights. These fluorescent LED lights, and then they're showing up outside. Nothing but mind controlism technology. Klaus Schwab will know your thoughts, his words, right? Going from country to country. Noah Harari, free will is dead. You got to ask how. Unbelievable. And again, it wasn't my wisdom for this mind controlism technology. I've had multiple dreams, and it just took me back to divide and conquer. Stop the race war. I had a dream where black men were started surrounding these white kids that ended up partying probably in the wrong place, and a plane kept flying over and flying over and flying over. And I had no idea about Operation Crimson Mist in Rwanda, where that genocide happened. That technology was in place. And check out Final Days Report 84, banned video by telecom company. We talk about that French doctor that talks about mind controlism. And then I give testimony of, I think, two or three different stories that people told me from other parts of the world that they were fighting zombies. I used to travel the world with a marketing job. Very, very interesting. So where are we? What time frame are we in? Matthew 24, for nation shall rise against nation. We're getting primed for World War III, for Seal 4. Nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence. So to me, pestilence. Did they set off pestilence? I don't think they needed that broadcast. I think they could do it. Probably the smart way to do it would be with drones. Going back to one of those VCasts that we talked about with the whistleblower, she said drones would activate it. And you think about it, that'd be smarter to do because you can control who gets what frequency. Started out in New York. If everybody got sick at one time and there was not a spread, that'd be a little fishy, right? that'd be a little fishy. The good news with Matthew 24, there's a lot of stuff that happens, but verse 14, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. That's the good news. Because I was worried, I'm always thinking about when they're going to cut off podcasts like mine. The gospel always needs to be preached. If I was Google and some companies that really squash the gospel and people trying to get saved, they're just delaying their Antichrist figure to bring on. They should actually stop censoring Christians. Let us speak, because the gospel needs to come out. So I want to tell you what happened to me. I put my cell phone in the microwave oven because I heard that was like a Faraday cage. The thing went off twice. The second time it went off, I saw subtly a white flash of light come and hit me and stun me for a second, and I felt a little dizzy, and I'm talking like 2 to 3 seconds, like it fast. And I'm one of those people, my entire life, I have seen white lights and black lights. When I first got glasses, my freshman year, I was talking to the eye doctor, and I said, I see little squiggly white things, and I see white and black spots. I thought everybody saw that. He's like, no, because I asked him, I was like, will I still see these little white lines and flashes? And so I don't know what exactly this means. I've done some research where some people can see little flashes of light here and there. Sounds weird. It's what I seen, but this was like, it hit me, and I felt something hit me inside of me. It was neither good nor bad, but I felt a little dizzy afterwards. And that's why I decided to do this VCast, because I really didn't cover it. I've always been a watchman on this mind controlism, this optogenetics situation. And I've had that feeling of a wave hitting me 2 other times. The other 2 actually were more intense than this experience, where I felt dizzy, where I was almost going to fall down. But granted, I was sitting down when this one happened. The other one, I think I've mentioned this before, I was in Pompeii. I was not a Christian. And I always thought that the Bible was written by just hearsay around the campfire, just campfire stories. I never read the Bible from A to Z, but I believed in a God. And I remember walking in Pompeii, and I think Pompeii was buried at 70 AD. Right? So I knew that. I was just like, man, the architecture is amazing. These people seem to build things better than we can build today. And I remember like this feeling of this getting hit, almost falling down. And I heard in my spirit something to the effect of, my word did not come from people sitting around from a campfire. It was like, it kind of sobered me up, because we were on a cruise, and I think the next 2 nights I didn't party. I was really thinking about it. And if you follow my ministry, I've had 4 supernatural events. Before I was a Christian, the Lord's been poking at me to become a Christian, and I've been stubborn and finally got saved years later after that event. And then another one happened during COVID. I was looking for land in Maine, trying to get out of the state I'm in and potentially go to a place where I could get out in a potential safe location. And I was looking at a property in the backwoods, kind of like a bug out property is where my head was. And I kind of was digging it a little bit. And I felt that wave hit me again. This one almost knocked me down. This one felt demonic, though. It did not feel good. It hit me. I felt like I was dizzy. It was so bad when I actually got out of the cabin, I looked around for a cell phone tower. And when I came to, I looked around that cabin, and there was some demonic, witchy stuff. A lot of owls, a lot of candles. It just had a witchy vibe. And I asked the real estate agent, let's get out of here. Let's get out of here fast. Now, what happened to me with this test, this is the only time I felt something hit me, and I saw the white light, and I prayed and rebuked any demonic presence. But again, it didn't feel good or bad. But it made me do this VCAS. Did something happen? And sure enough, I did some research. Some people had massive headaches and felt nauseous. I don't know. So let's see if something comes of this. Let's see if they're priming the pump for the nanotech that I think is in all of us. Because again, that last VCAST I did, they've been putting it in the water since 2013 in certain foods. Nanotech in the water. Go to SJ Wellfire and check that out. But again, this EMS, 3 things I'm looking for. Pretty quick death the next, I guess, let's say weeks. I don't see that happening. But more importantly, I'm going to be looking for mind-controlled behavior of this divide and conquer nonsense that we've always been covering. I think that's this 4th beast system. Ultimately, when you take the mark of the beast, you will tie in to this beast system controlled by artificial intelligence, a quantum computer, and somehow the Antichrist will be linked up in running the ship. That's when I think the true zombie apocalypse will happen. But it won't be necessarily that they're eating you. In my personal opinion, they'll just be hunting you down, because I do not believe in a pre-trib rapture. I'm actually writing a book, How to Read the Book of Revelation. And then the next thing, the next, let's say 6 months, did this activate the next pandemic? Personally, I wondered there, because if I was evil, I would do it city by city. And I think they can activate this stuff with 5G and all the Wi-Fi, 60 gigahertz weapon system that's already available. Armor up, my friends. Hopefully you're enjoying Pastor Larry. He's on fire for the Lord. And I got to tell you, I thought I knew a lot. And every time I listen to his Bible studies, I'm learning something, a couple takeaways every time. And I did a video short to put on TikTok, and they banned his video short. I don't know what he said that pissed him off, but if he's getting banned for preaching the word of God, folks, buy a hard copy King James Version. God bless.